When my daughter was a senior in high school at Pace, I always wanted to dance again. But I thought, well, I'm just going to do Dancing with the Stars, the ballroom thing.
Terri, thank you for
Cheers.
being on my channel.
Oh, you're welcome.
We're not dead yet.
Looking forward to it.
I can't wait to dive into your story. So, full disclosure, Terri went to law school with my husband. But Terri, you are a practicing attorney now and
Yes.
lobbyist.
Yes.
Still, at the age of
61, I'll be 62 in November.
crazy. And your big secret is you like sparkly things like I do.
I like wearing sparkly things and doing things in sparkly things.
Yes, yes. You are a pretty serious ballroom dancer.
Yes, I'm very serious.
Very serious. And when did that start?
Well, I've danced my entire life. I did the typical tap, ballet, and jazz.
Okay, me too.
And I grew up in a very small Kentucky town. There was no dancing, so I taught dancing out of my garage.
Did you really?
That my parents renovated so I could teach.
Who taught you?
I took lessons in Lexington at the Lexington Ballet Company.
And then taught others.
And then prior to that time, I had danced in Cincinnati. But I wasn't good enough. And what I mean by good enough, I wasn't good enough to be professional.
Sure.
So I went to undergraduate school and graduated and went
where was that?
I went to Centre College in Danville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And after that moved to Atlanta because I always wanted to live in Atlanta, which is ridiculous because I loved Gone with the Wind and that was my favorite book, and I thought I want to live where Scarlett lived, so I moved to Atlanta.
Well.
And I went to law school at night with your husband, Craig.
When did you take up ballroom?
I had 2 children with my husband,
Mm-hmm.
who, as you know, was in law school as well with Craig and I.
Crazy.
And he passed away of early onset Alzheimer's. And
how old was he at the time?
47.
Oh my goodness.
I was 45 at the same,
oh
at
my
the same
goodness.
time. I had the 2 children. I had my own law firm. I didn't have time for pastimes because the kids were doing sports, travel, softball, etc.
Been there, done that.
And you know what that's like. It's a full-time
It
job
is.
in and of
It
itself. And then when my daughter was a senior in high school at Pace, I always wanted to dance again. I took a few ballet classes
Mm-hmm.
here and there, but I knew that I couldn't do it to the level I wanted to, and I thought, well, I'm just going to do Dancing with the Stars, the ballroom thing, because I mean, of course, that television series was popular.
Oh, so it was popular at the time that you started.
It was.
Yeah,
But
we were addicted to that show.
Oh, I think a lot of people were.
Mm-hmm,
It's really
the whole family. I mean, even our little kids would just be riveted to the show.
I think
it's a great family show.
It is. I went to a dance studio and got a recommendation from another friend and started dancing.
And that was at what age?
Do the math. 60 minus 2009 is 49.
Very cool. And so it started with just some lessons?
No, I went in and I said, I want to compete.
Oh my gosh.
And I started with rhythm, which is what you start with, which is rumba, cha-cha, East Coast swing, bolero, and mambo. And then I did smooth, which is waltz, tango, foxtrot, and Viennese waltz. And I seemed to take to the rhythm dances. That's what I truly loved. So I concentrated on that for a few years, and because I didn't have the time and I wanted to be very, very good. And if you're going to be very, very good, it's easier when you're working full time to concentrate on one style. So I concentrated on rhythm, and that's where I am now. I've got a competition in 2 weeks. So
How often do you compete?
about 6 times a year, 6 to 7 times a year.
Wonderful. And so how often is it required to rehearse? How often are you in the studio? Not often enough.
That's a standard answer. 2 to 3 times a week, and then I also take dance lessons with my boyfriend. We dance socially. He doesn't compete, but I compete.
But it keeps you active.
It does. I love it. It makes my heart and soul just so happy. I'm just happy. And physically active, mentally active, because your brain is constantly learning new steps, new routines.
It's great for your brain.
It is.
Great for your brain.
And you know, they actually have done some research, and it is helpful for patients with Parkinson's disease, autistic individuals, etc. I don't know why. And you can do it until you're 90. I think there was a ballroom dancer, Miss Penny, who took lessons with me. She competed and danced, and she was 99 years old when she passed. She had a lesson that day, and she cut her lesson short, and she said, I just don't feel well. She went back to the assisted living home where she lived and went to sleep and passed away in her sleep.
Happy.
And that's very, very, and she was a pistol, because she would go to these competitions and she would argue with her instructor and argue with that the judges didn't score her right or something. You know, I think it's wonderful to have that fire.
Alzheimer's has played a significant role in your life
And my
your
children's.
family's
Yes.
life. And what was that like for your family?
The children were younger and didn't really understand. And when he passed, finally, my daughter was 12 and my son was 14. And I think the best description is when my daughter looked at me one day and said, you know, Mama, I know he doesn't know who I am, but will he always remember he loves me? And that, and of course the answer was yes.
Yeah.
But for her to say, that's a pretty impactful statement at that age.
Right. And you told me that it went downhill pretty fast.
Very quickly. When he was diagnosed, he was an attorney, and he was doing a plea in court. He did criminal defense work, and his supervising attorney asked, what was your plea? And he came back to sit at the bench and said, I don't remember.
Oh, no.
So his supervising attorney asked him to get a brain scan, and they found some issues. And after that, it just, got worse and worse. I mean, one time he said, when we were first married, what did you look like? And I said, I was a 5'10", 120-pound blonde with legs that were forever long. And he said, okay. And then 5 minutes later, he said, when we were first married, what did you look like? And I said, I was this really gorgeous redhead, really busty. And I just made up all of the stuff because he would forget. And maybe that sounds cruel, but you had to make light of it because it was like Groundhog Day.
Yes.
Consistently.
Yes.
So.
And we think of it as, my husband's mother passed away and had Alzheimer's, but very, in advanced age. It must have been exceptionally challenging dealing with a relatively young, which should have been vibrant human, and dealing with those issues.
It was. As I say, every family has something, and that was our challenge. He was a very outgoing, vivacious person, and he became a shell. There was no emotion. So I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of support this year. We're trying to raise over $1 million for the Alzheimer's Association because Mike's Alzheimer's is genetically based,
Mm-hmm.
and more than anything, I'm hoping that we can find a cure before my son, daughter, and my 4 grandsons are impacted by this horrible disease. Most people in the world, or most families I know of, are impacted. Your family was, and Craig's family was.
Terri, you have found a way to marry your passion for ballroom with your passion for finding a cure for Alzheimer's. And that's very exciting, and part of the reason that I wanted to do this video at this time, to help you with your cause.
And
so tell us about that.
And I so appreciate that tremendously.
Tell us about that.
For many years, I've been involved behind the scenes with Dancing Stars of Atlanta, which supports Alzheimer's, and I have many friends who are involved in it. One of my very best friends, Nancy Center, is the MC, and Christina Price, Dr. Price, danced in the event and called me and asked if I would dance, and I had to think about it about 2.9 seconds
Right.
before I said yes.
Yes.
I am dancing with my professional dance partner, Sergei Samchinsky, and
Who's also from the Ukraine.
Yes, he is.
Which is newsworthy, and we love supporting the Ukrainians.
And he has a fabulous sense of humor, which I appreciate. And we're doing a comedy routine.
Nice.
So I'm very excited about that. I hope the audience will enjoy it. But in anticipation of that, I hope everybody will contribute to the event.
Definitely, definitely. Also in the area of We're Not Dead Yet.
I wonder where this is going.
You have a boyfriend and a very active romantic life.
Yes. I've had the same boyfriend for 10 years. He lives up the street from me, actually, in a separate townhome. And it's our choice. We don't choose to live together or get married. We think it keeps it spicy if we live separately. Plus, because of he's a professor at Kennesaw State University teaching auditing, and I'm a practicing attorney, so we're very busy professionally, so it doesn't quite meld, and we like to have our private time.
But how was that going into because you started dating in your 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how was that going into the dating world?
I've had 3 pretty significant monogamous relationships. So I tend to find someone and stick with it. And I mean, Fred and I dated for a year before we committed, and then our commitment was that we would exclusively date each other. Should we decide that didn't work, we would terminate the relationship, but we would always be friends, and we would have no psycho chick or psycho dude behavior. And we even had a conversation.
And he shares your love of dance.
Yes, we
wonderful.
dance socially. He does not share my dance and my passion for competing. He was a competitive marathon runner, and I think he works out with you and your husband.
He does. Or at least with my husband.
So he enjoys that.
Nice.
And we also play pickleball.
I love
We're
it.
starting to pick up on that. But one thing that was rather interesting is when we moved, I downsized, he downsized, and we moved into this subdivision because I had looked at townhouses in the area, but I really liked the floor plan of this townhouse. We had a discussion. So if we move in together and you are close to me, what happens if we are no longer together romantically? And we had a very adult conversation about that, which was, you're an adult, I'm an adult, we're gonna handle it maturely because we'll always care about each other. And that's true. Now he drives me nuts sometimes and I'd like to shoot him, but that's with all relationship. Can you imagine if we lived together what it would be like?
It'd be like me and Craig. So, I have actually done a whole video on how much I love sparkly objects.
Oh, really?
I have a whole video on that. So, can we go play in your dresses?
Do you want to put it on?
Yes!
Okay.
Let's go play.
Let's go.
I think I'm doing it. Okay. Oh my goodness, I love sparkly objects. Terry, I love sparkly things so much. I might become a ballroom dancer just so I can wear these dresses.
You know, Neotima, it's not unheard of.
Except it might be out of my budget. What does one of these dresses cost? Where do you go to buy one of these?
I go to Classic Ballroom Elegance in Nashville, Tennessee. Cindy Brinkmeyer.
So you take a road trip.
Yes.
Gas is involved.
Yes. Or I meet her.
And a hotel room.
Or I meet her at a competition.
Gotcha.
So,
And
she sends me sketches through the email, and we do that. And she does fittings sometimes with FaceTime. She can do that. So,
but these, each one of these crystals are hand applied.
yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
So I don't want to know because it's
then
probably going to mean that I can't get into the ballroom dancing business. But what does one of these short dresses cost?
This is a custom.
I get that.
You can
I'm
do
a
it less
seamstress. I get that.
Okay. You can do it less expensively. But
But you know I wouldn't.
Right. These would be about $6,000.
Good Lord. And the jewelry, they make that to go with it?
Another individual makes those, and that's Dan Z. And she's around the corner. Neotima, I think she lives on your street.
No!
Yes. And she makes those.
Crazy.
And sells them at ballroom competition.
So, which one of these do I get to try on?
Well, you could choose, but that's the newest one.
I think I need to do some ballroom.
So, Neotima, you want to take up ballroom dancing?
Yes!